We called it on December 8th.
December 8th, we said, is Wall's time running out? I don't remember the subject line, but it was something.
It was his $1 billion problem.
There we go. His $1 billion problem. All right, everyone. Welcome to the newly named PredictIt podcast, where we analyze the news through prediction markets. I'm your co-host, Jacob Studwell. I'm here with Garth Yuckham. And Garth, first of all, Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you too. New year, same old political problems.
Yup. It's so true. They don't go away when the ball drops.
They don't.
They don't.
No, we just kick them down the road.
Tim wishes they went away, but unfortunately,
Tim wishes they did.
They do not. And, because it's the new year, we're thinking about hitting the reset button like everyone wants to. We have New Year's resolution. This year, our resolution is to explain to you what prediction markets are, how they work, how PredictIt works. We're going to jump on the site. We're going to show you how to use PredictIt. And then we're actually going to start our competition. Garth, are you pumped? Are you ready to trade?
Totally stoked. Totally stoked.
Okay, amazing. So, the number one question I get when I tell people that I have a prediction market podcast, the PredictIt podcast, is what are prediction markets? What do you do? What's going on?
Right.
And here today is where we're going to explain everything. So I want to start off by just giving you like a Wikipedia Wiktionary definition of prediction markets. They are exchange traded markets established for trading bets in the outcome of various events, which all that means is that there's a group of people, they want to find out how likely an outcome is, and they begin to take various bets on that. They say, hey, I want to take Gavin Newsom to win the Democratic presidential nomination, and I'll offer you 29 cents. And that's because they think it's less likely than 29 cents. The person who's buying that thinks it's more likely than 29 cents. So that's a simple explanation. Again, it's all about putting some kind of money on the line so that there is an incentive to get things right, to find the most accurate prediction out there. And here at PredictIt, we focus on politics. We are a political prediction market. So that's why, we talk about politics all day, every day. We love it. Right, Garth?
Yep, we do. And I would add one small note here with prediction markets. One of the key differences between a betting market and a prediction market is that we don't set the prices. You do. We create the market or the contract, whether it be a multi contract market or just a contract, yes or no. And as Jacob just said, you take a yes side or a no side, and you dictate effectively what the price will be. And somebody on the other side comes in and simply says, here we are. I'll take the other side of that offering.
Exactly. No, it's a great point. We trust the crowd's knowledge, right? We trust the thousands of people trading on PredictIt to all generally agree on the price of the current market. And by the way, when we talk about markets, when we say the word market, we mean a question. We're just trying to answer
Correct.
a question. So let's take the market or the question that I referenced earlier. Who will win the 2028 presidential nomination? Let's analyze this market right here. So we have the market or the question on top. Who will win the 2028 Democratic presidential nomination? We have lots of different faces and names here. We've got Gavin Newsom at the top. He right now is going for 34 cents. That's the most recent yes price here. And you'll see a yes or a no. If you think Gavin Newsom is going to win the 2028 Democratic presidential nomination, you are willing to pay 35 cents, right? Because if Gavin Newsom does become the Democratic presidential nominee, he will then gift you, or PredictIt will give you $1 for every single contract you buy on the yes side for Gavin Newsom. Now, You can also do the exact opposite. You can say, Gavin Newsom from California is known on one side of the aisle as being just kind of a pretty boy. What has he done for California? You can kind of play up that side and say 66 cents for the no with this crowded field. You have AOC, Kamala's going to run again. You have a great governor in Josh Shapiro and Andy Bashir running. 66 cents is actually probably underselling the chance that he doesn't become the presidential nominee on the Democratic side. Let's buy no here. I'm looking for that, 34 cents of profit here if he doesn't become that presidential nominee. So I'm going to buy no. And you can do either on every single candidate here.
Exactly.
And what's important to do before you buy any of the yes or the no is to scroll down and to read the rules. And I think the rules typically come into play when a market might be a little bit more complex, the question might be a little bit more complex. This is much more simple, right? This
Right.
is saying resolves to yes shall be that which identifies the person who will win the 2028 nomination for Democratic Party for US president. So this is more simple, although you have to get to the actual convention where they actually nominate the nominee
Correct.
there, the person. You can't just win all the primaries and then, there's some hanky panky and maybe there's a contested convention and something happens. You have to actually get to the convention, be the nominee, and I would call the Biden situation, in which contested primary. He ran through very easily, but did not make it all the way to the convention because of that slightly earlier debate performance. But
Hmm.
it is always important to read the rules. So I think that hopefully that was helpful just to run through. Again, that's actually our most traded market or question on Predict It. But it should be really simple. If you think the probability, and think of all of this in probabilities. So it says 34 cents, but you can think of it as 34% chance to get the nomination. If you think that's low on Gavin Newsom and you think he is going to win this primary process, you should buy. If you think that's high, you should buy no, right? You should take the other side. And, money is really going to encourage better forecasting. Have polling already that tries to forecast and takes a sample of the population, asks a question, and tries to extrapolate that out to the larger voting population.
And on top of it, they're going to predict in real time, as opposed to a poll, which may be taken last week and takes 2 to 3 days to gather the information. And people have no money on the line. So therefore, they're just telling you what they think will happen, which is a good designation here. And so, if there is a piece of breaking news like this morning with Tim Walz deciding not to run for a third term in Minnesota, the markets can react on that tweet, on that announcement, and reassess where the market might go if an Amy Klobuchar decides to actually jump in and give up her Senate seat to be the governor of Minnesota. And the markets will show you those exact pricing in of this new piece of data.
Absolutely. And a lot of times the news might be somewhat misleading or not actually move the market how you think it might. I'm right now looking at which party will win the 2026 gubernatorial race in Minnesota. So we have Democratic and Republican parties listed. The yes price for Democrats is it 82 cents? Republicans are at
Hmm.
15 cents. If we look at the 24-hour chart here, there's been not much movement. I mean, it dropped 2 cents maybe, but because Tim Walz is dropping out so early in the process, and there is a rumor
Hmm.
for Amy Klobuchar, a very popular senator in the state, to replace him, it's not going to necessarily shake up this market too much, uh, as long as, Amy Klobuchar kinda stakes her ground in the, child care gate. I don't know what we're calling it, but that's what I'll name it. Should kinda be clean and good enough to win that, gubernatorial race in Minnesota. But I definitely think we are constantly shocked with what the news actually moves and what it doesn't.
Well, but again, this is a great example of the layering in each market and the amount of information that traders are taking in, because we also have the uncertainty of what's happening on the Republican side. So even if a relatively popular governor like Tim Walz drops out, his popularity is going to give a path for the next Democrat to come in, even if there is a scandal, because the Republicans don't have one face currently decided in their primary. So there's uncertainty plus a slightly less uncertain event. In this case, Klobuchar filling in for Waltz, which obviously isn't a done deal. But their Democrats, the traders say, are in a better position than the Republicans currently to keep hold of the seat.
Yeah, and I think that's a great segue to talking about what actually moves the market. I think uncertainty might be the number one driver of why a market is priced why it is. We have uncertainty all over the place, and I know we were talking about the difference between prediction markets and polling, but polling does help to shrink the amount of uncertainty in any given market. Polling is a huge driver of information in a lot of these markets. So, although it might not be the most accurate, it will help to sharpen the prediction market that you're trying to play in. And I think, we have a lot of reasons of why a market can be accurate. The wisdom of crowds, which we've talked about. We have incentives. People are actually trying to make money here, so they have a large incentive to be right. We have information diversity, which again can come from polling. It can come from
Local news, Twitter, or Twitter X. It can be your friend who works on the Hill. It could be somebody who works at some governmental agency somewhere. It could be anywhere. It could be at the bar. That's kind of the whole wisdom of the crowd concept of, the information is going to come from many different places. And the more information you have, you can decide whether it's useful for this market or this contract or not useful at all. And you might put more weight on it because of your previous experience than I might, right? I might be pushing a different theory in a market than you are. And so all these different factors help you find a price that you're willing to pay for a contract in a market
yeah.
or not pay for.
And I think when it comes to elections and politics, we're always wondering what is the number one issue? Why do people vote how they do is kind of the question we're trying to answer. So if we find the issue that people are voting on, we can try to connect it to the politician who is hopefully talking about the most important issue and framing that as their main campaign promise, right? So in 2024, that turned out to be immigration. I mean, I think immigration was one of the main, it was immigration and it was inflation. But I think the middle, the
Mhm.
people who actually mattered and kind of shifted their ways, they were voting on immigration. Would you frame that correctly, Garth?
Well, I mean, I think it's immigration and as you said, inflation, but the economy as a whole, pocketbook issues. They tend to always resonate. I mean, it's that great quote. It's the economy, stupid. And we can, without looking too far forward. I mean, Trump is running into that current issue because the economy is his now, and the economy before was Biden's. So it's a combination of one, how does everybody feel? How comfortable are they? And then, you know, part of that comfort and extension of it is something like an immigration issue, where do they feel comfortable with where they're living and what they're doing? It gets safety, right? So these are two tend to be big issues. And then there are the personal issues. If you flip to the other side, whether it be women's right to choose, healthcare, anything of this kind of family life
Yeah. We saw that huge in
this
2018,
past year.
right?
Well, and then 2018, yeah,
No,
yeah.
that's
So
fair. I
whether
mean,
it's Supreme
these are
Court
kind of
decisions.
patterns here that we
Yeah.
see. And I think you're right. Trump is definitely running into that economy buzzsaw there. And what's interesting, and we talk about what do people care about? What do people vote on? Trump's focus is very much foreign affairs. Generally,
Mhm.
we won't get into the Donroe doctrine too much, but if his focus is on Venezuela and Colombia and Mexico, that's not typically how an American voter votes on. Okay, that foreign
Of course
affairs
not.
is typically down at the bottom of the list, and that is under,
Mhm.
climate change being an issue, and I don't know, I could come up with so many other issues that are above foreign affairs. You really have to be able to sell why you're, invading and capturing the Venezuelan president and why that actually matters to your voter in Ohio, Pennsylvania, Michigan.
I mean, the farmer in Iowa, I mean, what does he care about Venezuela? What does the person in New Mexico care about Venezuela? Yeah, it's a hard sell.
Right.
It's a hard sell.
If we do look at why prediction markets might be wrong in some cases, right? We can think about narrative driven trading. We can kind of concoct a story in our heads. Maybe you saw the brat memes with Kamala, and you thought she's getting out the use, she's really doing the
Yep.
meme thing. She's getting out the vote. That could be a reason that a swath of voters could be swayed, or traders can be swayed. Then we have quote unquote market manipulation attempts, which this is one that I want to harp on because PredictIt has individual caps on single contracts, which is, I'm pretty sure we're the only prediction market out there with those individual caps on single contracts. You can have $3,500 on any single contract, which is a big plus because everyone can have an equal opinion on every single contract. You can't get moved around or pushed around by big money.
And
Yeah,
one of the things to note on that, and it's specifically tied to the campaign contribution limit, so that it ties in even further, predict its political lean and focus on politics. So that's kind of an interesting number, and that's why it's 3,500.
and then we have poorly written questions or unclear resolution criteria. We were talking about how you have to look at the rules, and we are very, very careful about how we write the rules, about how every single market or question is created. We do plan to have on someone from our markets team on the podcast at some point. We will ask him all the questions of how are you writing things? How are you thinking about this? Because I think it's super interesting. But PredictIt is super careful about how we write the rules and it being clear. You don't want to have this settlement ambiguity. You don't want to be asking, am I going to win or am I going to lose? You want to know exactly what's going to happen, and that's how you can price things accurately. And I think the last one is just kind of herd behavior or echo chambers. If you don't have a diverse field of information, if you don't have different people telling you different things, you're not going to land on the right answer. You might miss it entirely. It might not be in your frame of view. Diversity of information and points of view is super, super important. I know we try to bring
It's
that
really
in the
key.
podcast as much as possible, but
Yeah, I mean, this is like when you're talking about smaller house races or in less populous markets, call it Wyoming or Montana or North Dakota, and where there is minimal amounts of polling, for example, or not even minimal, but like they poll once every 2 months or 3 months, and there isn't a lot of you know clean news. Maybe that's a new term, but news that isn't being pushed by a narrative, right? Whether it be a campaign narrative or the local politics narrative or so on and so forth. And so this is some of this where this herd behavior can, kind of manifest itself in something that to be careful with in like the lower volume traded markets or in the markets where there is just less news, right? So
absolutely.
something else to consider.
No, it's super true. And I do want to also get back to what moves markets, what do people care about, what are people voting on? There was this really great Axios tweet. It was the 2025 news cycle in one chart. They're basically indexing search interest. So this does have an internet bend to it. We have to remember that there are only so many people who use the internet daily. I know that sounds crazy in 2026, but there are only so many people on Twitter. So this does have a certain bend to it, but we are seeing in it's the month on the bottom. So you can see the Palisades fire was, 1 year ago, and that was one on everyone's mind. Then we had talk of Greenland, which is back in the news. And then if you go down, Elon, DEI, this is a really good recap of 2025 as we go along. But let's look at, I mean, it's funny, Labubu, first of all, is the one that I have to point out.
Big, big,
Huge, huge Labubu. And then, and
but
also,
it's big.
shout out K-pop Demon Hunters. Garth, you have two little kids. I don't know if they're into K-pop
Yes,
Demon Hunters, but I am.
of
So
course, of course.
but then the
Yes.
main topic here, look at inflation,
I mean,
sustained search volume all year round, especially in November, by the way, especially right after
mhm.
or during election season, but especially in July and August. And that sustaining power really gives you a feel for how much more important pocketbook issues are to 6-7.
I mean, it's like
It really is. It really is.
I mean, and even look at it more popular than Sydney Sweeney. I mean, she had a good run all last year,
Yeah,
but, you know,
sustained,
inflation wins.
sustained. Totally. Start American Eagle ad. She's in multiple movies. Every season, Housemaid. She really stayed on top. But
Everywhere.
let's just give it like a good comparison. I love shout out also to Real ID. Everyone realizing that they need a new ID to go on planes in America. So
Right?
shout out Real ID as well. And then you have the two Jeffrey Epstein humps as well, just taking over the
I
news.
mean, it's great. I mean, this is such a great picture. I mean, like Doge, right? I mean, we all thought Doge was everything, everything, everything. And then if you look at this chart, I mean, it is so contained.
Yeah,
Do we
right.
even talk about Doge? It doesn't exist anymore,
No, no,
right?
no. Right, right. It's I love this picture because it really gets you to understand again what moves markets, what are we looking for in trading and in pricing and probabilities, and I think just kind of experience of understanding what news changes markets overall can really help you over time. So, Garth, any other thoughts on what are prediction markets? What are we doing here? Explain it to everyone out there, and if not, let's get into our competition.
No, I mean, I think we've done a pretty good job of covering it. I mean, kind of the mission of PredictIt is to get to the bottom of the question, to answer the question, to answer the question as quickly as possible, to price things to fairly, to produce this snapshot in time of kind of where people thought this event was going to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it's you can really build it into your life. You can understand. Look, if a certain candidate has a policy that might affect you, maybe they're raising taxes or they're
Hmm.
pouring more money into schools near you, or any type of issue that could affect you directly. You want to know how likely that candidate is to win. You want to know how much you can build into your life and your plans based on this candidate or this political policy. So it is important to know earlier than we actually call the race, because if you're planning to have a kid, you want to know, is there going to be free childcare where I live, or what are
Hmm.
housing prices? I think this stuff really does matter more than just who's going to win the election and who's going to make money off of that. It's a larger issue.
Well, I mean, and it's been proven that prediction markets, especially the political ones, help civic engagement. It's, if you it gives you a reason to pay attention. I mean, just like if you fill out your March Madness and you pick the Duke Blue Devils to win, you're going to care a little bit more on Duke because you put $10 into the office pool. It's a fact. But this is about stuff that actually can change your life.
Absolutely. All right, so let's get into our competition, Garth. I've been teasing this for so long. I'm so excited. Arthur and I both are employees, so we actually can't trade themselves, but we are going to phantom trade. We're going to be posting on Twitter. We'll have a Twitter for the Predict It podcast. So we'll be posting our trades there. And what's important is that both of us are going to have, again, a phantom $3,500 to signal the limits, the individual limits that everyone has on contracts. With those $3,500, we're going to be, picking our spots, investing, and the most profit will win. And all of these markets and these contracts are going to have different end dates. So we'll kind of keep you updated Garth and I will try to make most of our trades on the podcast. If we make a trade not on the podcast, you can find it on our Twitter. But this will be the competition. Again, most profit wins this year, 2026. I have a few base positions here just to kind of get my feet wet and start to feel it out. I don't want to go too hard out the gate, but I do want to spend a good amount of my $3,500. Garth, do you have some base positions as well?
I mean, yeah, I have some markets that I'm eyeing. Yeah.
All right, perfect. So I will tell everyone I'm looking to put $500 on the Democrats to win the House. Right now it's at 77 cents. So it's going to be something around 640 shares. I haven't done the exact math. That will be posted on Twitter, but I will have something like 640 shares for the Democrats to win the House, which means if I actually win and the Democrats do take back the House in November, I will have made $140-$150 of profit. So solid position, not really going for the gold there. I'm kind of, trying to find out my profit there. And then I have a smaller long-term, very long-term position here. I've been talking about the Ted Cruz's ability to find some momentum and maybe win Iowa in 2028. So I want to take Ted Cruz to win the Republican presidential nomination. Right now, I think he's at 4 cents. He was at 2 cents when I started talking about him. So I'm a little
Okay.
late, but I'm going to put just $100 on Ted Cruz to win that Republican nomination. I think there could be some issues with JD Vance in the future if he's so linked up with this administration who isn't necessarily handling inflation and affordability crisis the way that normal Americans might want them to. And there could be some interesting infighting in the Republican Party. So I'm going with Ted Cruz and the Democrats to start off. Garth, what are you starting off with?
I'm going to start off with the government shutdown. I'm going to take the 29 cents. No, I mean, I just don't see how we could stomach another shutdown. There's actually not that many working days because apparently the Senate and the House are going to take a week off because they need a week off in January after a 2-week recess or
You know what?
3-week
I
recess or
also
however many
need
days
that
you're
week
off.
off. So I totally
Exactly.
understand
Yeah.
it.
We should all take it off.
We should. We really should.
Congress isn't working. We shouldn't work. But I mean, I know that they've only passed 3 bills, but there's the CR. They got to do something. And I feel like, if I buy, I mean, it's quite a big stake, I think, what is it? 29 cents, 500 shares or 400 or how many? I'm going to put about $1,400 or $1,500 into this market.
Wow. Boom.
Try to get an early win. And yeah, I can't see why they would shut the government down again.
All right. So you got 70 cents right now for the no. Is that accurate?
71 cents. 71
71 cents for the no. Again, similar like profit margin, I guess, if that actually does hit. I love the take, Garth. I said this to you a couple months ago. Like, there's no way the government shuts down again, right? I mean,
Not
we already
twice.
long
Not twice.
I mean, there's no way it happens.
Exactly.
Even if it's just a continuing resolution, because if we go to that market,
Exactly.
if we go to that market and you read the rules, the end date is February 2nd. So as long as
Mhm.
they push the ball down the hill, you know,
I don't care for how long. They could push it to February 3rd for all I care.
February 3rd, that's all you're looking for. This is genius. I love this because you might take an early lead. I'm a little intimidated, but next week I'll come back and I'll come up with a better position and we'll fight this out. But this is good stuff. Good start.
Gotta go where the volume is, where the news is.
All right, amazing. Thank you everyone for listening. Really appreciate it. Go find us on Apple Podcast, on Spotify, on YouTube. We have lots and lots of visuals to show. So I think YouTube is probably the best way to consume us, but really appreciate you tuning in to the PredictIt podcast. I'm Jacob Studwell. This is Garth Yuckham. Thanks everyone.